With the new codex and awesome releases, it's time to guide you through building, collecting, and painting your first 1000 points of Dark Angels. Dark Angels operate in 3 distinct formations known as wings. Unlike most Space Marine chapters, which only have one veteran company, the Dark Angels have 2. The first wing is that of the Deathwing. The Deathwing are the elite of the Dark Angels, sporting their iconic bone white Terminator armor, and recently, this wing has expanded to include veterans such as the Stern and Blade Guard. In-game, they are as tough as they come, putting out both deadly combat attacks with Power Fist, Sword and Mace, whilst being able to mow down hordes of enemies in a hail of Stormbolter and Plasma rounds. Greenwing forms everything that is not within the other 2 wings. Usually, this is the core infantry and most vehicles. Do not be fooled. This does not make them lesser for not being elite, or in the veteran companies, for the Knights of Caliban are known for their stubborn defiance. Finally, the Ravenwing. Arguably one of the coolest elite companies in Warhammer 40k, these beak menaces rival even the White Scars in their mastery of speed and aggression. The elite Black Knights, like knights of old, ride their mounts into battle against the fiercest of foes, even if they are mechanized these days. Having twin-link plasma guns never hurts either. I would advise picking up a Deathwing assault box and one of the current Space Marine combat patrols. I do appreciate that the box has sold out, but as always, I can guarantee you will have local shops with multiple copies of this knocking about way after release, and it really is a perfect box for starting a Deathwing army. For your leader, you have a choice between Belial, a Librarian, or a Terminator Captain if you've made these purchases. The Belial is a pretty decent hero and the most thematic choice, as he is the leader of the Deathwing, but I would personally opt for the Terminator Captain. This is because his Rites of Battle ability will allow you to use a stratagem for free every turn on the unit, whilst adding a decent combat punch if you decide to go that way. Please note, anything with the Terminator keyword in the Space Marine Codex gains the Deathwing keyword, so they can go together. Run 1 unit of Terminators as a squad of 10 with 2 heavy weapons of your choice. You may as well go for Plasma, as thematically speaking, the Dark Angels would literally crush up Plasma and snort the dust if they were given the chance. The other 10 I would advise running as 2 5-man units to allow you to trade and complete secondaries such as behind enemy lines and engage on all fronts, which is easily done because these units can be put into deep strike. Finally, 5 Deathwing Knights. This unit is as tough as anything and even reduces incoming damage. They quite literally have to be hit by a damage 5 weapon to die in 1 hit. They have a decent damage output despite only being damage 1 with their power swords, but they're also awesome models. On top of this, if you want to pick them up cheap, loads of people on Facebook are complaining about them being trash or useless, so their only loss is going to be your gain. Rules are temporary, models are forever. Well, at least 15 years. This comes in at just below £200, depending what discount you can get it at, which is quite reasonable for a 1000 point force, considering you have 2 extra characters and a spare Flamer squad to expand your collection with out of the combat patrol. You can run this force in either the Dark Angel Deathwing detachment or be really offensive and run it in the core Space Marine detachment, which makes the whole army be -1 to hit, and certain units can infiltrate, which would make 10 Terminators with a captain very rude. Narratively speaking, don't do this. If you have a friend you don't like, make them bleed. Greenwing are versatile and able to deal with all threats, allowing their elite units to get the job done elsewhere. The Greenwing force is dead straightforward. It's 2 combat patrols and Azrael. I have to credit Auspex Tactics for the info regarding the combat patrol, as it's been shown in the codex and some people have gotten that early. This does leave you with a spare Gravis captain either to sell off or build differently, but that's up to you. Now Azrael, he's going to lead the Hellblasters, which will buff them by providing them sustained hits whilst also providing them an invulnerable save. Azrael is one of the Codex's best characters, both model and rules wise, and the Hellblasters, when they join him, are going to continue to take enemy units apart with their high number of shots and high damage, whilst also being able to shoot again on death. This is exceptionally funny, as the ability even triggers if they blow themselves up from overcharging their plasma guns, quite literally meaning they shoot, die, and shoot again all in the same shooting phase. You can also get Azrael to generate you a command point a turn, which is not to be sniffed at. With all the intercessors, because you are going to have loads, I'd advise running 1 brick of 10 intercessors to either push up the board or hold a key objective, and 2 5-man units to help you trade and do secondary objectives. You could run all of your squads as 5-man squads, but that's up to you and your playstyle. And finally, the Gravis captain, he's going to be leading, well, no one. Oddly, he can't actually lead any of the units that come in this box, which is a bit of a drawback. However, I would have him assisting the Blade Guard, but you're going to have to hide him from enemy shooting as you move him up the board. This does seem a bit of an oversight from Games Workshop. However, you do have to consider that combat patrols act as an intro to the game and have a separate sort of 500-point set of rules. But it's a whole nother conversation. It's not going to be good if you play a combat patrol game and then you go into the main 40k game and you find out, oh, but this guy can't lead these units, but he can in this game. Yeah, it's a little bit of a mess, but fair enough. This is a lot of the Marines for only a little bit over £200, once again depending on discount. The downside of this box is that the intercessors do fulfill a basic job, but you are going to be relying on the Hellblasters and the Blade Guard to get all your work done, damage output and objective storming. This set is also going to take you longer to paint due to the higher model count, because what is that? That's like, it's towards 40 models, which is, well, it's really good for the price, but obviously painting is going to take you a little longer to get them done and on the table. The second of the elite companies, the Ravenwing. I do have to be transparent here. I have a whole Ravenwing force. It's one of my favourite wings to run. I do, however, have to recommend to you to avoid them for now. My reasons for this is that the elite unique units for the Ravenwing have either been discontinued as of this new codex, such as the Talon Master, are old and awful models to build, such as Samael and his Fine Class Glory, and finally, the Ravenwing Knights and Command Squad models, as much as I do still love them, they are really old now and their scale is the old Firstborn scale. And much like the Terminators, I expect that these will get redone at some point. And I mean, that only really leaves you with Primaris Outriders, ATVs and Chaplains on bikes, as well as Storm Speeders, all very generic units, which, sure, like my ones, you can add bits to them to tart them up and make them really look the part as Ravenwing, but ultimately they are generic Space Marine models and they're not unique to the Dark Angels. If you do still want to put the mechanical horse force together, I would personally take 2 units of 6 Outriders, one led by a Chaplain to help buff their damage output in shooting, and I think his combat does slap decently. His AP's gone down, but he will still give them that combat punch when needed, but do keep in mind they're more a shooting unit that engages only when necessary. Think of them as a mobile shooting platform. I'd also assign an ATV to each squad to further boost that firepower. The command squad has, however, changed, and instead it leads a unit opposed to being a unit in its own right, which is pretty cool rules-wise. By this logic, I would look at running a unit of Black Knights with a command squad attached for all the extra buffs that they provide. This will be the more expensive choice out of the 3, but well worth it, if it is the theme that you want to go in on. For me though, I'd much rather wait for Primaris scaled models like those amazing Terminators, but obviously Ravenwing variants and other biker variants. Now we need to get your glorious force that you of course have every intention to paint onto the battlefield. The Heavy Contrast series are run by Yuan? I'm not really sure, someone correct me on that. It's amazing anyway, as the dude is a highly talented painter and shows you how to really push the use of contrast paints to produce some amazing painting results. I'd personally watch this, as although he does paint stuff to a very high level using contrast paint and some other techniques, you can decide at what point of the process you're going to stop. But knowing more never hurts, because as a new painter or someone new to the hobby, you're able to dial back the knowledge. So knowing more, as I said, will never hurt. If you want an alternative take on painting models via dry brushing, Arta's Opus is the way to go. I think Dan has painted a whole ton of armies for the channel using these guys' techniques. I'd probably say about 70% of the armies on the channel are painted using methods stolen from Arta's Opus, so shout out to them. This method is not for everyone, however, but it is well worth looking at and deciding if that's how you're going to go forward with your painting. And finally, one that I've not seen before, but Battleforge Games, they've done a very high level edge highlighting paint job in this final guide. It's a more advanced scheme taking a lot more time and control, but once again, you can decide how many steps you wish to follow for your basic infantry, and then maybe you follow most of the tutorial for your characters to really make them stand out on the battlefield. Because let's be honest, if anyone's picking up one of your models to look at close, it's going to be, you know, the Lion, Azrael, your converted Dark Angels captain. And thank you everyone for watching the video. If you enjoyed this video or it's helped you, there is a thanks option on the video. The best support for us, however, would be a comment, a like, and even a sub if your arm is not too tired after reaching across the keyboard to do those 2 things. We also give away £300 a month of Games Workshop product to our patrons, and that's on the 25th of every month. So there should still be time to get involved with that depending when this video has gone up. Other than that, join our amazing Discord community for free where we have pirates. Yeah, thank you.